Do you see the big stickers that we bought?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to an awesome evening with two really great vendors. Tonight is the launch of a new product line from All Star Sports Equipment. We will be monitoring the chat on the YouTube link tonight if you have any questions, and we have time to get to your questions later on in the evening. I'm joined tonight by three guests: Matt Arcovio with the Umpire Training Service, who is also an admin on the pages for Umpire World, baseball and softball umpire pages, and many other pages on the Facebook social media platform; Jim Kirk, the owner of Umpatire.com; and Stan Yurga, the director of product development of All Star. Gentlemen, welcome to the call this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for hosting, Tom.
So Stan, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us a little bit about All Star.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So I'm the director of product development, and that in a small company can mean a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. A lot of what I do is spending time here in our test lab. So we have our air cannon behind us, and later on, I'll kind of take you around and show you some other fun devices we have here for testing product, for baseball. And so it's a lot of R&D. We're always testing new materials, new designs. We're prototyping. Outside in our design space, we have 2 3D printers. So we're always, just trying to build new gizmos. But I've got one foot in the lab and another foot on the field. And I think that's one thing that makes us really unique, is that we have a very, very short feedback loop from the people who actively use our product to our design team here. So I'm talking with pro catchers, pro umpires, also a network of amateurs around the country as well, doing a lot of wear testing. And so we internalize that feedback and then bring it right back to the design team. So a big part of what we asked, whether it's a pro player or a high school player or college players, tell us what is working, but more importantly, tell us what's not working, because those are the opportunities to keep improving the product line. And so that really short feedback loop from the active users to the design, I think it helps us just innovate very, very quickly. And we've kind of been propelled into kind of this leading role in Baseball Protective for that reason. But before Baseball Protective, we go back to 1860, believe it or not. The origin of the company is a belt and suspender factory. And so we're located in north central Massachusetts. We're about an hour, 45 minutes west of Boston. And just outside this wall here is a river. And back in the 1800s, basically that river powered everything in this building, all the looms and the weaves, the punches and what have you. So the story goes that about 100 years after the start of the company in 1960, we had a sales rep in Chicago calling on Sears Roebuck. And I'm not sure how many people remember the Sears catalog, like the super thick, chunky, mail order catalog, and the department stores that unfortunately are mostly, I think, gone out of business. But back in the 1960s, Sears was the target of today. And so our sales rep had a great meeting. We had great belt sales. People were still wearing suspenders, and so the sales were great there. But the rep asked my grandfather if we could build a jock strap, because Sears basically had a need for a jock strap. So with that first jock strap started the All-Star division in 1960. And from that first jock strap, we basically went into football protective. So, forearm guards, thigh, knee, tail, hip pads, did volleyball knee pads for a long time as well. And then in the 1970s, we started getting more focused on baseball. And that's when my dad kind of came on board, had some ideas on how to improve catcher's gear with wraparound shins and triple knee designs and other different aspects. But the biggest thing that he did is really going back to that direct feedback. He started going to spring training. He started talking with catchers who, at that point in time, the catchers were like looking around at him and saying, like, why are you talking to me? Like, everyone talks to the pitchers, or they talk to, the big swingers over here. No one talks to the catchers, but he's like, no, like, I want to make a better product for you. Like, tell us, how we can make something that you would really want to wear. And that's what we still do today. So when I go to spring training or to see, the pro catchers, when I go to the annual umpire retreat for MLB umpires, we're still doing the same thing, saying, hey guys, like, what's working, what's not working. And we really want to hear what's not working, because we crave that. We want that constructive criticism to keep making the product better. And so along the way, like, some different stories there is like, at one point, Charlie O'Brien, catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, back in the 90s, gave my dad a call and it's like, hey Stan, like, I'm kind of messing around with like a hockey goalie helmet, and I think we can make something kind of unique here. And so my dad jumped on it. And, basically we invented, or I should say my dad and Charlie O'Brien invented, the hockey style helmet. And, that was an interesting story, trying to balance the protective qualities with what MLB would allow on field and things like that. But again, it goes back to listening, trying to hear, what people want. Kind of along those lines, like when my dad was going to the annual umpire retreats, he had several MLB guys say, "Hey, I want leather forehead pad and a leather chin pad." And so that's what we have here. This is the model that C.D. Buckner wears and Ed Hickox wear. And truth be told, after we did the development, signed off on the design, this is one of our better, actually it's our best testing, umpire catcher helmet. So it's all about, again, about kind of listening to the needs of the athletes, the players, and the users. So we'll talk a little more of that as we get into some of the products. But it's really integral to get that feedback. And going into this new umpire line that we've dubbed Cobalt, it's no different. We reached out to Jim and his staff. We've utilized Matt's feedback extensively, and then Matt has a network of amateur umpires. So it's all just trying to gather that feedback. We'll send out prototypes that, sometimes they look like they have just a little bit more than duct tape on them, but they still kind of get the idea across. And then we start refining, building better samples, and just keep trying to see what works.
Great. Well, just for my curiosity, you say you're in Massachusetts. Can you tell me what the name of that vehicle is that you drive down the road? How do you say that?
Oh, I don't know. Like,
is it a
car?
CR? Well, how do you think?
Oh yeah, no, we park a car at Harvard Yard.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, I'm born and raised here, but like I don't know if I grew up on Sesame Street or whatnot, but I have like no New England accent. Like my dad, my grandparents, like sawhorse is a sawhorse, for like construction. Like like I somehow it just skipped a generation or something like that. So, but yes, I have no New England accent whatsoever.
I grew
up 30 minutes from you, Stan, and I don't have it either.
There you go.
So, gentlemen, has Stan done a good job introducing himself and introducing All-Star? Is there anything we've left out that he needs to tell us?
Oh, Matt, don't do it.
Well, when I talk about All-Star, I say they've got the smartest people making their products, and that is absolutely true of Stan. He's too humble to talk about the places he went to school, but let's just say a couple of places in Cambridge that do okay.
They're all right. Yeah, somehow they let me in. I was the mistake, I think. So, but anyway.
Well, Tommy, I'll just chime in and say, I've been working with All-Star for many years, and I did not know that origin story until Stan and I discussed it on a call about 4 to 5 weeks ago. And I told him, I said, you've got to share that story. No one knows, no one really knows who you are. I mean, I see Stan and Brad. Brad is Stan's brother at the minor league baseball trade show every year that I'm there. You guys have a great setup. They are very professional, and but I never knew the origin story, and I loved it. And and it's one of those really good stories where it starts out with a need, and then someone works hard at it, and then next thing you know, it develops into something else. And so really impressive stuff. And I think everyone's going to get a sense tonight about just, I know we talked about, you need a lab coat because you're in your lab right now. Sure. And that's the other part, right? Your job is you're the head of product development at All-Star. So whether it's catcher's gear or umpire gear, everything starts up here in that head of yours, right? So
we have a team. It's not just.
I know. I'm not saying that the team doesn't make, but I'm sure a lot of it comes from up here, or vice versa. Someone has an idea, right, and then shares it with you. Yeah. So I think it's been really neat to hear your story of All-Star, and then also of what you're doing. And I'm so glad that you agreed to make the Cobalt. The umpire world needs more companies involved in umpire gear. It's important, and we appreciate you taking the time out tonight to be on this call and educating everyone. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the gadgets and things you're getting ready to do here. So let's roll.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, why don't we start off with?
Well, one last thing.
Oh yeah.
Before we get started, everybody sit back and relax, because when we went through the dry run of this last week, I was really wowed by what you're getting ready to see. So we're going to get out of the way, and Stan, you've got the floor. We're going to sit back and watch this magician, and you'll understand why when you watch him here in a few minutes, show us the All-Star product line. So Stan, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, guys. So before we dive right into this whole new Cobalt line, we're going to kind of do a little refresher on our magnesium mask, just because it's such a big anchor item. You're seeing it on TV with a number of professional umpires, and it's just such a great product that really, again, the umpires are just loving. So let's just start there, then we'll start getting into the Cobalt line. So this is our magnesium mask, and the need here is we're on the quest to find something that was lighter than titanium, but tests like steel. And by that, I mean has more dampening properties that absorb energy. Because on average, steel, or titanium rather, is pretty stiff. And that's not exactly what you want in a material that's supposed to absorb energy before it ultimately gets into your head, into your brain. So magnesium was a great material to look at in terms of the properties. Again, it's lighter than titanium, so check that box. And in terms of mechanical properties, in terms of how it bends, it behaves much like steel. And you might think bending is bad, and certainly you don't want something that bends too easily. But what I'm concerned about is your first line of defense is, well, let's talk about physics first. So we work in this world of conservation of energy. So that's one of the fundamental laws of physics. So you've got a ball coming at your face, and that ball has kinetic energy, and that energy has to go somewhere. So your first line of defense is if you can kick the ball one way or the other to deflect the ball, that's great, because off goes more kinetic energy, or I shouldn't say more, but off goes some of that kinetic energy away from you. But no matter how much a ball gets deflected, there's still some that has to get absorbed. But actually, I should first point out too, like one of the design elements of the magnesium is you can see how tapered this mask is. And one of our signatures that we started doing first in our hockey style helmets, and then in our traditional face masks, was putting this vertical bar down here instead of the traditional upside down U shape, because that upside down U shape is pretty flat and very, very perpendicular to the most common direction of the ball. So by putting that vertical bar here and having more of an axe blade, you really help to deflect the ball one way or the other, so that, again, you're diverting that energy away from you. But as soon as you make contact, that energy has to go somewhere. And so your first line of defense is that material. If you have something super, super stiff that doesn't bend, yes, that will last a lifetime and you'll never have to replace it. But being so stiff, it doesn't absorb any energy whatsoever. So think about taking a metal bar, I got a pen here, but if you think about taking a metal bar and bending it permanently, it takes energy to bend it permanently. And that's energy that would otherwise travel further into the system, which is the padding and then ultimately your head. So the magnesium, given a big enough impact, I'm talking like over 100 miles per hour, it'll start to bend. And so here's one of our victims from quality control testing. This saw about 12 or so shots at 110 miles per hour, starting with the left eye socket, the nose, the forehead, the chin area. And you can see that it's starting to get pretty mangled. Now, I don't want you to think that happens in the real world, because since we've had this magnesium debut about 4 years, I've seen basically one come back from a pro player. And I don't think we may have had one from like a warranty issue of some sort, but very, 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 very low. It's because it is super strong and super durable. But again, given a big enough impact, it will bend, and that makes me feel better about the protective qualities. So now we're going to talk about the padding system. And this is going to involve, again, feedback from a pro player. So as we're working on the magnesium, I was sharing this with Jonathan Lucroy, a longtime big league catcher. We have a very close relationship, talk all the time. And Jonathan unfortunately had a concussion using one of our titanium masks, maybe like eight or 9 years ago. His recollection is that the mask basically pivoted and the bar made contact with the chin. So he's very, very sensitive to this area, thinking that maybe we could improve the design somehow. So he's the one that proposed, like, hey, why don't you drop the padding down below the bottom perimeter bar? And that makes total sense, because if you look at a lot of other designs that have been longstanding, when you stop the padding right at the bottom edge, as soon as you compress the mask, that bottom bar essentially can slip off the padding. Not exactly good for force transmittal. So by extending the pad about a half an inch lower, whenever we compress the frame from an impact, we're getting the benefit of this whole entire bottom perimeter pressing onto the padding. So the more that we can utilize the padding, the more we can spread the load. And the more that we can spread the load, the better we can do at absorbing the energy. The worst you could have is a concentrated force in one location. That's the worst. So that was Jonathan's first idea. And we made some prototypes, did some testing, and compared to regular, I say regular, the pads that basically ended at the bottom edge, the ones that went a little bit longer, we saved about 10 Gs. And you might think, wow, 10 Gs, like that's huge, because you think about a fighter pilot. They pass out sometimes around 4 or 5 Gs. So you're thinking like 10 Gs, wow, that's a massive change. But the difference is a fighter pilot will pass out with like 5 Gs sustained through a turn. Whereas when we're talking about impacts to a face mask, when we fire up the air cannon, and you'll see the head forms a little bit later, the energy of that ball basically gets into the head and in about 10 milliseconds. So it's just like this, 10 milliseconds and it's done. And so it's a very quick peak. So 10 Gs might sound like a lot, but in the real world, it's about doing a jumping jack. So I just like to kind of frame that in some real world experiences to just be very open with everyone and not make any false claims. So that was his first idea, extend the padding. And then he said, well, what about putting a plastic plate between the metal bars and the padding? And again, I really liked his thinking, because when we think about a hockey style helmet like this, you have the cage that instead of going right to the pads, it goes into a shell. And that shell helps disperse that energy over a bigger area. It incorporates more padding, so you get more force dispersion. But also, anytime an energy wave goes from one material to another, you're going through these different interfaces. And anytime you cross an interface, you do not have very good coupling of that energy. So you kind of disrupt the energy wave, if you will. So by having more interfaces between the ball and your head, you again are dissipating energy. And so going back to Jonathan's idea of putting a plastic plate inside the chin pad, it made total sense to me. And so we made some prototypes. And again, we tested them. So we had 3 sets of prototypes. We had, again, the regular pads that ended at the lower bar. We had the pads, same exact construction, but just they went lower like this. And then we had a third set like this that had the plastic plate internalized, so you can't see it. And so what we found is by adding the plastic plate, we got another 10 Gs of savings. So on net, by dropping the pad, adding the plastic plate, we got 20 Gs. And 20 Gs, like that's starting to be somewhat meaningful, So, and anytime we see measurements here in the lab that are going towards less energy, that's a direction we want to head. So, so once this got out, we heard tremendous feedback from people. Again, I just like to put out there, there's nothing that's concussion proof. I don't want there to be any misconceptions about anything I say here, but the feedback anecdotally was wonderful. I mean, people said they were just felt great. It's kind of weird when people say, yeah, I felt great taking that, getting smoked by 100 miles per hour. It didn't, I didn't feel a thing. That's what gets me up in the morning and motivates me is hearing that feedback from the players and knowing that we're doing the best we can to protect them. So again, it's a whole system. You're talking about the metal alloy, you're talking about the padding system and anything else you can add in between to help disrupt that energy wave. One thing too is there's a lot of talk about mask and safety and that lightweight is bad. And certainly that is true if you're driving down the highway and you're driving a Mini Cooper and a big semi comes by and bowls you over. Like that's definitely important. Having more mass will help you stay safer in a high-speed collision in a vehicle. When we talk about the mass of masks or the weight of masks, we're not talking about very large differences. And based on our testing, the thing that matters most in terms of the testing of a traditional face mask is not so much the weight, but how stiff that metal material is. So again, when I say this is like very lightweight, I don't want anyone to think that is in any way compromising their safety, because in terms of testing, this is our best testing product that we offer for a traditional face mask. Very, very low SI numbers, very, very low peak G. So we're very, very proud of this. And again, that feedback we hear from people saying that they love it, they feel like a difference is wonderful. So so one of the questions is coming up is, can we do the same thing on the forehead? Stay tuned. We are working on something like that. But in the meantime, we could probably segue into the skull cap actually, because that is kind of part of the answer as well.
And before we do that, So you said that there's the bottom pad of the mask, in addition to being oversized compared to the frame, there's also a plastic insert, right?
Yes. And go ahead.
So why don't you do that on the top pad?
Great question, Matt. It doesn't fit, to be perfectly honest, because just the geometry is such that it just doesn't work. We tried it, and it's maybe hard to get a sense here, like, looking on a camera. The chin pad is actually quite flat by design. The forehead is just much more rounded, and so it just didn't work. But stay tuned. We are working on some things. I can't tell you what they are right now, but we are thinking about that, because, I mean, quite honestly, that was I'll be honest, like, that was a blind spot. We're thinking about a catcher, who's had an experience in his chin, and quite honestly, we hear from so many people that the chin shots are what rings their bell. That's, and there's some theories about that. Some have been dispelled. Some, I think there's, if you think about getting hit in your forehead, which has no movable bones, no ligaments, no muscles, it's pretty solid up here. When you get hit down here in your jaw, you have a lot of movable parts. You have your TMJ, you've got ligaments and muscles. So, I think there's a lot that you feel more pain from a chin shot. It's more jarring. There's still, to my knowledge, no data that says any one place is worse than another. What we know is that it's the successive, multiple, repeated impacts within a short duration that are the things to really worry about the most. One thing on the chin, though, is, if you think about a boxer, a boxer is going to try to send in a hook, and the reason is they're trying to basically spin the person's head. And we also know that a straight-on hit to the head, where your head moves in a linear fashion in a straight line, is much less severe than an impact that spins your head. So any kind of whiplash motion tends to be more jarring. So I think that's another reason why sometimes the chin shots, feel worse and maybe produce, to the player's experience, a more severe concussion, because there's more of a rotation effect versus getting hit in the head. Sorry, am I getting too detailed?
I wanted to chime in and thank you for your presentation about explaining the extension of the pad, the additional plastic. I think those are really great. The magnesium is obviously, these days magnesium is a preferred alloy over some of the older style alloys. And but one thing I also noticed, you mentioned the word geometry. This mask has a lot of geometry built into it. And I know that we're getting ready to segue into something that's going to talk about a way to give you more protection up here on the forehead with that mask.
Yes.
But before you do, I'd like for you to just talk a little bit at least about the angles.
Yes.
Sorry, angles on that mask and why that's important.
And I almost forgot a really important thing, Jim, as well, is that we tried magnesium for probably about 8 years and gave up, because we're basically trying to take what we do with steel and titanium and take bar stock and weld it to each other. And we would do that with magnesium. We get a batch in here to the test lab. We start testing 100 miles per hour. Hey, things are going great. And then ping, you'd get a bar snapping right across. The magnesium never failed at the welds, but just beyond the welds, they'd fail. We tried all kinds of heat treatments to relax the stress from welding. We couldn't figure anything out. So we kind of gave up for about a year or so. And then I can't even remember how, but we basically came up with the idea of let's forget welding. Let's actually do injection molding. So, there's different techniques out there, much like injection molding of plastic shells, like they do for batting helmets and skull caps and hockey style helmets. You can injection mold the magnesium, and that's what we do. Is we have a mold, inject the magnesium, let it cool, and it comes out solid. But with that, Jim, as you're pointing out, there's a lot of geometry in here. So if I go close here in the camera, you can see that because we're not welding anything, we have a lot of freedom in terms of the design. Like we have these beautiful filleted radii all throughout, multiple contours, a very high degree of three-dimensional design. It's not just a couple of bars welded together. You have a lot of really interesting angles here. So I just think it's a beautiful mask to be as well. It's just a really cool piece of equipment that's unlike anything that's done before. I'll even give you guys a little insight here. This ear is a little bit chunky. And the reason being is that it actually is welded there. because when we were doing the R&D of this, we had so many bad experiences with the magnesium failing that we were not certain that this would work doing the injection. So for whatever reason, it was cheaper for us to build half of a mold and another half, and then weld them together. And it's not just a weld, it's actually dovetails that fit together. So it's like these dovetails that are then welded. We can't break this at all, no matter how hard we try. And we did that again, because it was a lot cheaper to build 2 smaller molds and 1 big mold. And quite honestly, it worked, and no one's ever complained about this look. And quite honestly, it's useful, because when I'm watching TV, it's a telltale sign that, hey, that umpire, he's wearing the magnesium. Mm-hmm. Because we also have the steel version, the FM 4000 steel, that has the same geometry, but it's welded steel. And from a distance, the silhouette is very similar. Mm-hmm. But when you look at this ear, you're like, aha, that thick part right there.
So that's the tail. That's the tail that's magnesium. And I really like what you said is you had a problem trying to do magnesium the way that you've always done every other material, and that was using welds. But because of that, you ended up having a solution that actually made multiple things better. So not only can you have something that's magnesium, which does have some bend to it instead of it being solid not reflecting the impact as much, but you also are able to build in all these different contours with it. And then on top of it, because you don't have any welds, you have no weak points. Exactly. So you took a problem and you ended up having 3 solutions from it. But just like about anything in life, whether it's about business or your personal life, any problem you solve creates another problem, right? And so if anyone has talked about this mask, the one thing we've heard from our customers is, we love the idea, we love the plastic in front. Why didn't someone think of that before? And then the thought was, well, why not a piece of plastic up here? But as Matt was working on getting the segue going for what's coming next, I think we're all ready for the skull cap to explain.
So yes,
and I want to go ahead and just help you frame this. To me, the skull cap, hopefully not taking any away of your thunder here, don't be mad at me if I am, it's 2 solutions in one, right? Because not only you get the extra layer of protection here, you get more protection around. So I'll stop talking.
Yeah,
I'll let you take it from here. And I cannot wait to see if any of you are watching right now. You're getting ready to see a lot more fun stuff that Dr. Stan is going to be sending your way.
Yes. So I tell a lot of stories. So, cut me off if I go down these rabbit holes. But this is the first piece in our Cobalt line. It's an umpire skull cap, and it truly is umpire specific. The origin of why we started looking at it and the actual design is very umpire specific. And so it goes back probably about 4 years ago. We were approached by Mark Laton. He's now retired, but at the time he was the head of umpire medical services for Major League Baseball. And he basically told us, like, hey, look, we're having a problem. We're having more and more umpires get hit with bats, either back swings or broken bats. Umpires are getting lacerations because the bats are cupped. We need help. And so we started thinking about different things and, trying to really kind of balance like the traditional look of the umpire and, how they feel about, their confidence on the field and how people perceive them to the safety and what's really needed. So basically, we started doing a number of things. I mean, one is getting feedback again. And this time we reached out to minor league umpires on a number of occasions and just had some anonymous surveys and said, hey, those of you who are wearing traditional face masks, where do you want more protection? And we listed a bunch of things like the chin, the cheek, the forehead. But what was the resounding answer from them was they wanted more protection on the top of the head, the side, and the rear. And it all kind of made sense because what we're seeing with both umpires and catchers is like we have no hard data on this, but anecdotally, just over the last, again, 3 to 4 years, we're just seeing more impacts from bats hitting the umpires and the catchers. And we started theorizing or hypothesizing that, it's probably guys are trying to hit home runs more than average now. They don't care about their average, they just want to hit home runs. Launch angle. With the rise of analytics, people are hitting, batters are not swinging more planar. They're basically kind of going, up more at an angle. And if they're going up more at an angle, they're going to come back down and clock the umpire and the catcher. And then the third one that really surprised me when I was talking to pro catchers last year about, these two ideas or these two hypotheses, they said, yeah, those are both true, but it's the catchers, we, the catchers, are causing the problem too. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no catcher wants to get hit on purpose from a bat, but it all has to do with analytics. And so catchers who are getting judged more, intensely or scrutinized more with StatCast and other analytics that the teams have, is that if they're catching a breaking ball, they're scooting up maybe 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches closer to the plate to catch the ball in the zone versus out of the zone. So they're getting scored, for calling, catching more strikes. By moving up, they're dragging the umpire up with them, and everyone's getting closer to the batter. So it's just kind of a perfect storm of all these things. So again, based on that feedback, what we're hearing from the umpires is that we needed more protection on the side, the rear, and the top. And so if you look at our skull cap, we've got these raised ridges on the side, up through the back, and up over the top. And what we're trying to balance here is, no one wants to be Mr. Potato Head on the field and have this huge helmet. So we're trying to augment the padding in key areas without making the helmet look too bulky. And the most important feature of the shell is the visor. This is the length of a 4-stitch cap. And we felt very strongly about that because the last thing we want is for the face mask bars to make contact with the visor. So this probably doesn't show it very well on the camera, but when you have the forehead, again, talk about augmented protection in the forehead, this is part of the solution right now, is that the last thing you want is for these metal bars to get pushed from the impact into this visor, because this visor is very, very stiff, and it's going to send a lot of energy right into your head. And for years, I've been concerned about this because catchers have been doing this for a number of years. A couple of the guys, like Kevin Cash, who's now the manager for the Tampa Bay Rays, he always wore, as a catcher, his visor forward and a full-length visor as well. Jared Saltalamacchia did it for many years, and Wellington Castillo still does it. And last year, Wellington Castillo took a foul tip, and it's hard to tell for certain. Well, I guess the result, because what happened was, in a slow-mo replay of this collision of the foul tip into his mask, there's a chunk of plastic that came off the visor and basically spun and fell to the ground, like a chunk about this big. And for spending 15 years in this room testing helmets, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to break ABS plastic or polycarbonate. So that meant that basically his head took the full brunt of that blow and resisted that force. Not a good situation. So that kind of confirmed, we'd already been working on a shortened visor at that point, but it really confirmed the importance for that in terms of safety. On the inside, we have a really nice liner system. It's a 3D mesh liner, so it breathes very well. It has great moisture wicking properties. And as you can see have the augmented padding around the sides, the rear, and the top. All the padding is held in place by Velcro. So it all comes out like so. And that's nice, especially if you've got a day long of plate sessions. Midday, you can take out these liners, put in a fresh set, so nice and dry. You can also wash these in a regular home, washing machine, line dry them. So you just got a lot of great value in this helmet. It comes in 4 sizes: small, medium, large, extra large. But the way we designed this liner is such that it can accommodate different head shapes. And this might be telling you guys a little bit too much, but during the course of this project, I had the opportunity to measure Major League umpire heads. And so I took, the front to back distance, the side to side. I have these enormous calipers, which they look kind of weird, But then I also have something called a contour gauge that basically will trace a portion of a person's head. And so doing some fun math, you can basically recreate the shapes of the different heads. And out of the 50 Major League umpires that I measured, and we recreated their basically a cross section of their head where they wear their plate cap, not 2 umpires have the same head shape, even though I think almost all of them have 7 1/4 cap sizes. So what that means is that just everyone has such different shapes, like, very, very oval shapes, pinheads, very, very round shapes, trapezoidal, some people have funky bumps. So basically with this liner system, the forehead wraps around to the sides. So you can put a thicker liner side to side and front to back to get a more custom shape, and kind of mix and match in between sizes to really dial in the fit that's unique to your own head shape. And so in terms of the standard sizes, there's a great question here coming in. It's like, how do I find out what size you would need for the helmet? we go by basic cap sizes. So if you know you wear a 7¼ cap size, I believe that's a size large, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, we have all the circumferences and the cap sizes correlated with the small, the medium, the large, and the extra large. So start there. And then if you find that it's a little bit loose side to side, you can basically get a replacement pad that's a little bit thicker, go one size down. So terrific fit. Another part on the fit is, if you look here, you can see that the rear pad sticks below the shell by about 1 inch. And so you basically, that's because pretty much everyone has this thing, this bump on the back of their head called the occipital lobe. That's a fun word, SATs, prep. So if you put that on there, this little, drop in the padding basically hugs that bump, which is super handy because, well, if you're using a magnesium mask, it's not an issue because this thing's like basically a pound. I mean, it's super lightweight. But if you have like a old heavy, steel mask that's going to be putting some weight down, that's going to help keep it locked on your head and resist falling off. The finish is what we call a sand mat. So it's a highly textured matte finish that actually has a grit in it. So it's like sandpaper. And that's, again, to grab the harness of the face mask to resist slipping. The other thing that we have available is what we call a DeltaFlex harness. It's got bare neoprene on the inside, and that bare neoprene has a bit of grip as well. This is what we do in the catcher's line, and the catchers love it because it really keeps the mask in place on their plastic skull caps. So the same thing is true here with the umpire line, is that you've already got the sand matte texture, but that DeltaFlex harness has a lot more adherence to or stick to the shell. So actually kind of made me think of something I forgot earlier too. And it's kind of relates because we're going matte black because that's obvious, that's preferred color for umpires. But back to this magnesium, the first couple years out, we only had the silver color. But one thing that we picked up from the umpires, I think Chris Guccione was the first one to tell me that he was basically spray painting his black. And I always get kind of weirded out by paint because if you don't paint properly, it can delaminate and flake. And the last thing we want is flakes of paint going to someone's eye. But then the best story is Jim Wolf. He got the magnesium and silver. He used a Sharpie to basically color the whole thing black. And every night he'd have to re-Sharpie it after it had a plate appearance because during the game he would take it off and put it under his arm, and all the Sharpie was coming off on his forearm and kind of wearing off the mask. So based on that umpire feedback, they were the whole impetus behind getting a matte black cage. So again, listening, just trying to hear what the needs are. So anyway, so back to the skull cap. Let's have some fun in the lab. So let's go for a little bit of a tour.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to let you get away with that because I was like, please show the lab. This is really cool.
I'm
so
sitting
if you're watching now, this is one of the coolest parts of the evening.
So here, like I said, this is a working lab. So we do R&D here. We also do quality control. So our technician, Lewis, he's going to be a little upset with me because I basically kind of cleared out his lab. He had a whole bunch of racks of helmets in here, but you can see these are some that are in the process of quality control testing. And if you bear with me, we'll kind of get a little bit of a tour here. So I'll move this. So over here, if I can change the angle here, this is our air cannon. And right now, I'm not going to show you a blast just because I've got the head form somewhere else, which is really exciting. This is the NOCSAE thoracic surrogate. This is what is the basis for the new NOCSAE standard for chest protectors that high school kids are required to wear, and then starting this year, the NCAA is requiring as well. This is basically a torso of a 14-year-old child because commotio cordis really affects ages 14 plus or minus a few years. Once you get above age 18, it's almost non-existent in baseball. But we're doing quality control testing, and we did all of our R&D and testing with this guy. So the air cannon, it's pressurized with air. We can shoot up to about 120 miles per hour with baseballs. We also shoot softballs and lacrosse balls. Then over here, if I tip this down, this is the NOCSAE drop test. So you have a carriage here that goes up vertically. So it'll come down and drop. And what we mount onto the carriage are these head forms. These are biofidelic head forms. If you took a cross section, you would see that the cranium is filled with basically a viscous oil to simulate a brain sloshing around. In the very center of mass of the head up through this channel, we mount an accelerometer, which you'll see in just a moment. We've got 3 different sizes. This is the football lineman size, very, very large head that we test our largest helmets on. We have a youth head form, and then we have what's called the medium head form, which is sort of your average 90th percentile adult head. But regardless of what head form you use, you mount it on the carriage, like so, and it basically drops with the helmet onto the anvil. And then for testing to the NOCSAE standard for hockey style helmets, we basically drop onto this round anvil. And this is basically meant to simulate getting hit with a baseball bat. Now that's what we're required to do, but when you think about it, like, if you're getting hit with a baseball bat, this apparatus is more like you're putting a baseball bat on the ground and you're whacking your head against it. That's not really the real world. So what we did is we thought, well, hey, look, we're trying to study for umpires, how to protect against, how do we protect against bat swings? So if we're really trying to protect a professional umpire from a bat swing, why don't we actually swing a bat at the head? So that's what we have here. So this is, again, our NOCSAE head form. In the center of mass is the accelerometer. There's this little blue cable here, and that blue cable runs over to our KME, and it will reset that to be 0. This is going to record what's called the severity index, which is what NOCSAE requires for meeting their safety standards. You can think of the severity index as more or less the total energy of the impact. We also record the peak G, which is basically the peak force. So what we'll do is, I'm going to put this back over here so you have a better sense of the big picture here. First, what I'm going to do is strike the head form with no protection. Okay, we'll reset over there, and it takes a minute, or not a minute, a couple seconds to upload. So just fix your eyes over here. There's nothing up this sleeve, Tommy, the magician. So if you watch, wait for it. Wow. So that sounds pretty painful, looks pretty painful. The velocity was 7.2 meters per second. That's about 16 miles per hour. Most major league guys have a backswing of like 20 to 30 miles per hour, plus or minus. And you can see the result here, if I go steady, is actually, hey Tommy, am I mirrored? Does that number look like 1654?
You are good. It's
okay.
coming across 165.9, I believe.
Oh, actually 1,659.
Oh, 1,659.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
So that's really important because I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this. NOCSAE sets a threshold of 1,200. So for any batting helmet, football helmet, catcher's helmet that has to meet the NOCSAE standard, you have to be below 1,200. And if I want to get really nerdy, I can bring out a whiteboard and show you the statistics we have to do, because it's not simply being below 1,200. It's showing that over the course of all of your quality control testing, that when you do a normal distribution of the values, that you would have no statistical failures. So in other words, you take your average of all your quality control data and make sure you're more than 3 standard deviations away from 1,200. So it's actually, you need to be below 1,200 to really be safe. Now, what does 1,200 mean? So NOCSAE set that because based on their research decades ago, that was basically what resulted into a skull fracture. So a lot of what NOCSAE is concerned about is a skull fracture. Skull fractures, bad, like catastrophic, like potential death. When you've got, I mean, a lot of you probably know that football at one point was almost banned because there were too many skull fractures happening back in the early 1900s. So basically, that's really what we're guarding against mostly. The absolute extreme situation of a skull fracture. So again, if we look here, at 1,659, that is not a good severity index. That's pretty damaging. Definitely, to the point of probably having a skull fracture. If you look at the peak G, 326 peak G. Now there's no clear-cut threshold for concussions. There's kind of like you said, like probability curves based on risk. And once you start going above 300 Gs, you're definitely in the realm of pretty much a guaranteed concussion from a single impact. Again, there's no threshold that says if you're below it, you're free from concussions, because everyone is so different. We go to concussion conferences several times a year, and we have really smart people. Like down the road, 20 minutes away, is Dr. Robert Cantu, who's one of the big authorities on sports-related concussions and CTE. He was talking last year at a conference that we've known for the better part of a decade that people are very different with regard to their how they experience a head blow. Like if I hit Tommy, me, Jim, and Matt with the same exact impact, same velocity, same location, same magnitude, we would probably have 4 different responses. What's new as of last year is that researchers have seen that, yes, there's a variation between people, but that variation is even bigger than we ever thought. So it's just, again, I can't highlight enough that everyone's different when it comes to that. So let's do this. Enough talking about theory. Let's look at some more measurements. I'm going to reset this guy again to 0. We're going to come over here and do it all over again. But the one thing that we're going to change is put the Cobalt skull cap onto the head form. So I put this guy on here, and just align them. So that's going to come in. Reset. Okay, and then you'll run the program again. Again, just wait a moment. Okay, that still sounded really bad. Let's see, 7.7 meters per second. So again, that's roughly around 16 miles per hour. Here, the severity index. So Tommy, do you see an 8? 0008? Hey, Tommy, is that what you see? Do you see just basically 0008 on there?
Yes, I see 000, and it looks like an 8 at the end. Yes.
Perfect. So that's pretty dramatic. So we went from like 1,600 down to single digits. Huge change by introducing the skull cap. And then in terms of the peak G, we're down to 30. So we went from 300, I think it was 325 or 300 something. Now we're down to 30. So we basically cut that by a factor of 10. So again, it's super important. We know bat swings are rare, but when they happen, they can be pretty bad. And I don't want to be like using scare tactics here, because the reality is that what we see here in the lab is worst case scenario. So when I've got the air can set up, I've got the head form positioned, I have an indicator that drops out, a little pointer here. And so that pointer, it's a knuckleball coming out, but it's plus or minus like 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. So it's pretty accurate. So we can hit things the worst way possible. So things that don't typically happen in the real world, because most impacts are grazing angles. There's a lot of deflection involved. But here we always strike things perpendicular, so we get maximum force transmission to be kind of worst case scenario. Does that make sense?
Hey, thanks so much, Stan, for that. Welcome. Bringing us all right into your lab and letting us see what you do there, and what a great thing that is. That through technology that we can join you there, in up in Massachusetts, and that's just great. Look at how much force that was reduced. And one thing I really like about the skull cap is the bill. Right, and that you designed it for the bill only. I know in the old days you were headed down that way. You had a cap that you called the Bill Welke cap that Major League umpire Bill Welke wore, because it had the shorter bill to it. And I know that there have been some talk even as early as or even as I guess as late as this year about some people wearing coaches' helmets as that extra layer of protection for umpires. But one thing that we did our due diligence on and shared with all of our followers was how we needed to be really careful about the bill length. So I'm just going to do one little thing on my thing, just as a PSA, if you all will let me share my screen, is on the bill. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so what you see here is this is actually an All-Star helmet. Okay, So it's an all-star helmet, and it is, and everyone can see that, right? And so there's a cap here. This is a 4-inch cap.
Yeah.
So even though you can wear your helmet, yes, underneath your 4-inch cap, your 4-inch, your 4-stitch cap, then it's still out here, right? You don't want to get hit here, okay? So you've also got the issue of it being a longer bill. If it was a skull cap or a coach's helmet, we don't want this. We don't want this going out there. Oh, great,
Yeah,
Matt.
I've got them here side by side. This is
you see that, right? And so we've seen longer than that. So this is a we just want to be able, because here's what people sometimes don't forget, they forget about is, and I'll stop sharing my screen here, is it's not so much that it fits, right? So let's say you put your longer bill cap or your longer bill skull cap underneath your helmet or your mask. And you think, well, there's space in between the mask and the bill, but you might get hit, and then you've got the compression to that area. So I really appreciate, I know the community appreciates that you guys designed a cap for umpires. And I know Mark Laton and the powers that be at Major League Baseball and the umpires that have moved to this at the pro level appreciate that as well. And not only that, you made it comfortable. It doesn't look terrible, right? I mean, I know it's different. Different is hard, right? And so we appreciate that. We appreciate you thinking out. I know one thing you didn't mention in detail is how much it grips with the sand, blasting, where you don't want the smooth coach's helmet where your harness will slip right over top of it. That's kind of important that your mask stay on while you're wearing it too. So this is truly, if you're going to wear a skull cap, I'm just going to say, I know you're not overselling it, and you said you didn't want to be scary about anything, but I will say this: if you're going to wear a skull cap, a hard shell cap on its own, the way to go is the All-Star Cobalt skull cap that just came to market. Thank you, Stan. I'll let someone else talk.
You bet. And Jim, hindsight's 2020, or I shouldn't say hindsight's 2020, but it's funny how things change, because the Welke brothers basically talked to my dad about doing the Welke cap. And we did have that in the line for like 1 year, and it went nowhere. Like, just the world was not ready for an umpire skull cap. Just there's so much resistance. That I started here 15 years ago, and that was pretty early on. So that was probably like 12-ish years ago. So much has changed since then. And so I just think that it's not for everybody, that's for sure. But I think we'll start seeing it being adopted more quickly. Real quick too, heading into spring training, just as the games are starting, we had 20 of the Major League umpires wear testing our Cobalt skull cap, but then the game stopped almost immediately. And so we basically, and let's just be honest, it's been just getting things started with spring train 2.0 and the season starting up. They had enough to worry about with all the different PPE regulations that I wasn't about to start pushing them on that. But we are seeing a couple guys kind of out there, starting to use it. So, but good things take time. So we'll see. So
you expect there'll be more people, at the professional level wearing this, and Matt shaking his head big time here in 2021. And we know how this works in this market, right, Matt? That when the big league guys wear it, then that makes everyone else comfortable in wearing it, down to minor league, down to college. I mean, I can guarantee you, if the major league guys aren't wearing it, the minor league guys are not going to want to wear it, because that's where they want to get to. And then college and high school. And so I think if some people step forward, and I think there are starting to be some people step forward and wearing that, and the more you see it, the less awkward it looks, right? That's just a pretty typical thing, right? Think about some of the fashion that used to be in that we used to wear when we were growing up. I mean, you look at it now, not so great, but that was that was the fashion of the time. And so right now, if we can make that more fashionable, I think we've got a winner. And I tell you what, and you said you don't get hit much there with the backswing. But with some of the people that umpire so much, I know guys, Matt, you feel free to chime in, who get hit often with a backswing because they do so many games. So now your risk level goes up.
Exactly.
$60 to save your head, right? Most people aren't on the workers' comp plan that Major League Baseball umpires are on. They're not, right? You've got to go to your day job the next day. You do not want to get a concussion. And like you said, nothing you have and nothing anyone has prevents concussions. You can reduce the possibility of them, And obviously $60 will reduce the possibility of concussions, the ability to get back out there, not miss a game. If you miss a game, you pretty much, that's the cost. That's your return on investment. When you lost a game, if you had bought a skull cap, you would have been able to get back out there. So I really like what you're doing. Everyone knows that I'm always preachy about get as much protection as you possibly can, which gets me really super excited about, I know Tommy's starting to crack the whip. Like it was time to start talking about the Cobalt chest protector, which I think, at least, look at, so, I think you've done a great job of explaining the head. Now it's time to move down the chest.
Yeah, and if anything, I can even talk longer about head stuff. I mean, that's a lot of what we think about, but I think let's nip it there, because again, I'll just keep going and whatnot. I'll get the
if we have time if we have time at the end, Stan, you can actually get the whiteboard out and go through some stuff too.
Perfect. That's great. So let's move on. So the coolest part of the Cobalt line is the new Cobalt chest protector, and the really design goals here were, how do we go low profile? How do we still provide protection? I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I should say this, but we're kind of going after that unicorn of the Riddell Power. Whenever you talk to officials and like, hey, what if you could have the ideal chest protector? What would it be? Everyone's like, oh, the Riddell Power. And as we started digging this, I always found it fascinating that very few people have even touched a Riddell Power. Those who have them, hoard them and don't let other people see them or touch them. They will never sell them. But it's just this mythical being, this unicorn, So that's where very lofty goal, and I hope that we've achieved it, but only time will tell after people, basically, start wearing this in the field and getting some more feedback. So, let's start talking about this. So we're going to start from the inside out. So on the inside, what we have here is air management pads. And by air management, that's a term that we use in our football product line. So when we're building football shoulder pads for, for linemen and what have you, we have these air management pads that are a fancy way of saying they're air bladders. So we coat the fabric with a special coating that kind of resists the airflow. So it's not just a super easy pillow to puff. It just some resistance. So there's more force dispersion when you hit these airbags. And what I love about them, this is something we did in our old System 7 line, is that all the padding is removable. What this means is that you can wash it very easily. So after a weekend of tournaments, throw in the washing machine, line dry, and they're brand new. It also means if you have multiple plate sessions in a day and you're getting super sweaty, you can swap these out to get new pads. They're nice and dry. But that said, they sponge off super easy. We're also trying to provide a lot of airflow. So you can see we have these two air channels that come down right through the sternum area, open area sort of down by the belly, just to let more air circulate. And if the angle's right, you can see that the padding is not flat. This is kind of waffle pattern. It's an egg crate foam, as we call it. And the reason we do that is that we don't want every part of the pad touching your body. That would just kind of suffocate you, just feel hot. But by having these different waffle patterns, you get some more loft, you get more airflow. So not everything is in contact with you all the time. So you just have more breathability. And also this whole sternum channel comes out too. So like if you want, you can maybe compromise, or I don't say compromise, but maybe reduce the protective qualities a little bit, have a little bit more airflow. So a lot of customization here. You can kind of flare the pads in or out because they're held in place by Velcro. So a really nice modular design. Everything is attached to a 4mm thick, very, very dense EVA padding as well. So you've got the air bladder pads, another layer of padding, and then you have the 4mm thick HDPE plates. And one thing you can probably see from the backside is that they come, it doesn't come on the camera as well, but it's pre-curved. So out of the box, there's a bit of shape to it. So it fits the body really, really well. We have different break points here. And in between the different break points, we've got this kind of rubber coated nylon webbing. So very, very durable, but you get a lot of good flex. So this can really fit a lot of body shapes. And the padding, even I think, Tom, you call this the pit pad, that's held in place. You can move it up or down or completely remove it. Like I take it off the right-hand side just to make it easier for me for throwing. This has a hard plate in it as well. So we didn't skimp here. We really want full protection. We cover some of the gaps up here, but in a minute you'll see that we can remove that to be even more low profile. And if I get the angle right here, you can see that the shoulders are pre-curved. And this is really meant so that when you're wearing the chest protector, it's hanging on your shoulders. Like the chest protector itself is hanging on your shoulders. You're not solely relying on the harness to keep it in place. So this just takes a lot of weight off the strap system to keep the chest protector in the right place to protect you. And then when I pop this guy on, I'm gonna move this up a little bit here so I can stand up. And let's get the camera a little bit higher. So one of the things that we thought about when you put on the chest protectors, from other models, ours included, is that I was struggling to reach the strap on the side and get everything buckled in. And so what we did here is something somewhat simple, is that we have this high-reach clip on a piece of webbing that can come out kind of almost straight off the chest protector. Very easy to grab with one hand in the front. You can reach around with the other hand to grab the strap, plug them in, let go, and it slides back into place. So that means that we get the clips out of harm's way for the most common shots aren't going to end up hitting that buckle. Early on, I'll be honest, we thought we were really smart because we had this super burly nylon reinforced clip, and we had it out here. Only problem is that when we brought it there and shot it with some balls, even the super resilient plastic just shattered into a million pieces. So anyway, so as you can see, very, very nice conforming fit. In fact, if you go to umpattire.com/cobalt, you'll see some photos of Ty wearing it. And from the side, he looks super slim and trim. So again, low profile is the name of the game. Up here, you can see they're sitting pretty low on my shoulders. Maybe Jim, we can cut away to you for a second, because on yours you've removed these, because these extra caps that cover the gap come off very easily. So
yeah, and I tell you what, that's one of the really great things about the chest protector, and it's one of the trends in Umpire chest protectors these days, where you have this ability to jigsaw lots of things together. You already mentioned you can take the sides out, right? I much should go ahead and done that, right? You can also remove the shoulder plates. So you can see that I've removed the shoulder plates here. So that makes it even less bulky in the shoulders, should you want that, right? And I think that's something that we think about when we think about trying to fit something for all chest protectors. Some are larger guys that need larger chest protectors. Some are smaller that need smaller. But also some people want more protection, and some people want less protection. So not only is this chest protector designed to fit all body types, it's also designed to fit all protection types, right? You already mentioned in the back where you can take this out if you wanted to. So you've got more air or not. One thing that when you and I were working on the development of this was smaller. The back pad was smaller. And I said, I know we've got some guys who've had, a lot of times guys call in, they've had heart surgeries and they want as much protection as possible in this area. And so you doubled up the size of this, one of the changes off the prototype. And I appreciate you doing that. But you still left channels in there, the bilateral channels there. And then also, again, if someone wants less, you can take it out or you can move it around. So I really like that. But you can really see how low profile this is. The extension has been removed here, right? So you see the extension of the one Stan has.
Yeah, this is like an extra 3.5 inches down
here. And so it looks like if you put them side by side, they look like different chest protectors. So I'm going to share my screen and show you a few pics of that worn by our Ty Unthank. And let's see how easy I can find this here. Give me just a second. There we go. Okay, so as Stan mentioned, when you go to ump-attire.com/cobalt, or you go to our website and you go to the home page and you scroll all the way down, you see the Cobalt here. So everything that we're talking about tonight is on this page. And so you can see that here. So here's a picture of Ty. And in this picture here, he's wearing the full extension and the full shoulder plates. And in this picture, he's not. The shoulder plates are gone and the extension is gone. So, and then this is the picture you like so much. Let me get over there.
Oh yeah, this.
Right.
That one's great.
This is not just a shirt picture. He is wearing the All-Star Cobalt underneath his shirt. And so, yeah, I really love this. Again, this is what the chest protector looks like with the shoulder caps and the extension. And this is what it looks like without. And so you get those options. And so sometimes for some people, more is more, and sometimes less is more. So we're glad that we were able to get these in early. Thank you, Stan, for sending these to us so we can get pictures up of the final product and not just the prototype. And we really appreciate that. And I tell you, we people are going to love this product. And I know people are tuning in now. I think there's a lot of people on the call, and you know, this is a great product, and I would like for you to keep talking about it because it's you put a lot of thought into it. You and I worked a lot on this. You know, you can feel free to share a little bit about some of the development, you know, aspects about how we were involved with helping you here, and hopefully we were of at least some help. And you're just your head, and then our having so many customers that we listen to. We don't always learn just because we know. We learn from our customers, and we're happy to share that back out and be that connection between our large customer base, including minor league baseball, many college conferences, and on down, and then share that with you and let you do these things.
You and your team were phenomenal, because a core, you know, part of our philosophy or culture is like, we just don't believe we know everything. You know, we just ask a lot of questions. You know, we listen more than we talk. And so just the insight that your team gave us from all of the feedback you guys gather, and then also to swing over to Matt too. Like Matt has a great network of a lot of amateur umpires that he trains and knows. He was able to get some early prototypes out to them. And that was some great insight too. Because like, Matt, maybe you want to spend a little bit of time talking about like the fit, because you had a variety of guys trying it out.
So I sent racked up quite a UPS bill sending these things across the country, but I sent it to specifically to people that I knew had very different body types. So I sent it to a guy, Trevor, who's you know 6'6" and like 180 pounds, and we sent it to guys that were you know, we sent it to some people that were, you know, 300 pounds. And it fit. We sent them to some female umpires, everything in between, and it fit all of them. The things that they really said was, you know, how light it was and how well it fit. And these are people who are drastically different in what their body types are. So if it fit all of them, then that's a really important piece to the development of the Cobalt, and it really speaks to, you know, who can wear this product.
Absolutely. We didn't want to have a model that required maybe 2 or 3 different sizes. We want something that just could kind of come out of the box and just get shaped in the right ways for everyone. It's little details too. Like, you know, one thing that I struggle with, I have a pretty narrow neck, but in some of the models, our own System 7 included, the past generation, just too tight in the neck, you know? And so what we have here with that coated webbing is you have a lot of back and forth here with the neck opening. So it can really accommodate a lot of different shapes. Again, back to the curved shoulders that really kind of hang on the body. All the plastic we're using, this high density polyethylene, is a special variety and has a bit of shape memory to it. So you can sit here, and it's not showing up in the camera too well, but you can take this shoulder arch, kind of flex it, and you'll get a tighter bend to maybe fit, you know, someone like me who's got like a much more narrow shoulder. You can flare it out. So you have a lot of points of adjustment. You know, you hear about people taking out heat guns to melt or kind of, you know, shape plastic. Really, if after you shape this a bit kind of with your hands, it's going to retain some of that memory. So we're trying to make it a little bit easier for everyone to just out of the box, very quickly build it to how they want through the modular design, through, you know, taking off these components. Another little thing is that the shoulder caps can move out a little bit wider. There's 2 points of adjustment for width as well. The last thing I'll point out too is that we have the original DeltaFlex harness. This is something that we created many years ago, where we took, again, that neoprene material that we like on the face mask harness, but this time we coated both sides with fabric, so you don't want grip on the backside of our chest protector harness. But a lot of breathability, a lot of great stretch, and it really conforms well. And this 4-point harness system, we've just found over the years works really, really great in terms of holding chest protectors on the body as designed. Because the last thing we want is a chest protector to be drooping down like this, and then all of your collarbone are exposed, and you can start getting some gaps between your face mask and your chest protector. Even if you have a throat guard, there's just different angles where the ball can come in. So we really want this to fit in a really nice, snug fashion, so that everyone is protected. Again, no matter kind of how big their shoulders or their neck is, we hope that this really fits in a great way, and it makes everyone feel protected and actually does protect them behind the plate.
When I was trying it on, just to speak to that moldability piece that you're talking about, when I put it on the first time, it felt like a new chest protector. Wore it around for 5 minutes or whatever, took it off, put it on 10 minutes later. It was like it was already molded to me. It was perfect. Just with that little bit of wear time and the little bit of body heat that was coming off wearing it, it molds right to your body, and that's something I've never seen in any other chest protector that I've ever worn.
That's great. That's cool. I think that's oh well. One thing about the weight is that you point out, Matt, that it's pretty lightweight. This weighs in like just a tad over 3.5 pounds. So it's definitely not like a lead vest. I mean, it's you put it on, once you have everything adjusted, it's almost seamless. And that's kind of one of our goals, like with all the gear we design, whether it's for umpires, whether it's for catchers, is how do we make products protect, but feel like you're wearing a t-shirt or feel like you're wearing nothing. That's just the ultimate, just to make it all disappear so that you can just stay focused solely on the game, have no lack of confidence because you're worried about a gap anywhere. We just want you to be able to focus on the game. And this again goes back to what I said earlier about, talking with people saying, what do you like about our product, but what don't you like? The example I use a lot is like the straps on a leg guard. Like if they're bugging you, you might think they're just like a tiny little piece, but we want to hear about it. Like, because if there's a way we can improve it, we want to improve it, because that could be the one thing that just takes your mind off of, the game for just that split second. And that once you're distracted, that can open up all kinds of issues, not just how you're officiating the game, but also safety, and that might be the one time that you just get dinged, so great stuff. Any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, they're asking in the chat if you could show the harness again.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. I'll try to do it this way so that it's not black on black. So then it wraps around. And sorry, what part of the harness too? Like the rear part or where it attaches?
They just said the harness. Yeah, they just said the harness, but if you could show the attachments again, that'd be great.
Yeah. So again, I'll do it not wearing it this time. So on the front, we have the side release buckle on its own piece of webbing, so that it wraps around to the side. And that's important to note too. You couldn't really see it when I was wearing it, but where this lies, it's lying on padding. So if you take an errant, foul tip that hits, most likely a grazing angle, you're not getting a clip right into your rib cage. If the clip is lying on a layer of protection, basically the EVA base padding, but also the air management pad as well. So you're very well protected. We do have some loops here too. Some people find that they need to loop, pass through the loops just to kind of keep it a little bit tighter from riding up. Other people, like myself, just go right over the top. It seems fine. So that's that. Again, side release buckle, where it comes in, and we looked at all kinds of things. Metal clasps like we use on catcher's gear. We still like the side release buckles. They're just a lot easier to pop off. When you're kind of in between games and want to cool off for a bit, go back to the truck. Get some hydration. If you got an hour to kill, just something to pop off easily. It just, especially like when you're reaching on the side here where we have it, just you pop and it just flies off. We have basically these ladder locks here, so you do have a lot of adjustment. I mentioned how this is a neoprene stretchy material. I didn't mention that this is also elastic on the waist as well. And again, that just helps with your movement as you're moving around, have that extra stretch. Where we don't put stretch is up in the top portion of the harness. So up on the shoulders, we have a static nylon webbing. We find that just over the years playing with different configurations, having no stretch up on top again, helps keep the chest protector located where it should be. Whereas again, having stretch on the sides helps as you're moving around, running around. It just helps keep everything centered appropriately. Great stuff. And
all right, I think we're probably ready, unless we have anything else to cover on this one. I think we're probably ready to look at the CPU 26, if you want to look at that.
Yeah. So this is what we're calling the internal plate chest protector. This is if you're not officiating at the higher level, if you're a little more price sensitive, this is a great product for you. Has a lot of protection. Like it looks like it's a soft shell, but it's really a hard shell. So that 4mm HDPE plate I was talking about on the Cobalt is buried inside of here. You have plastic plates to the sternum, up on the outside, up down here, up through the collarbone region, even in the throat guard. You've got plastic embedded to help, again, disperse that blow to a larger area to have more of the foam absorb that energy. So extremely lightweight. So I was mentioning the Cobalt was really lightweight at 3.5 pounds. This is 1.5 pounds. Even though it's super light, you're not skimping on protection. It's a solid piece of equipment. You get a lot of airflow, a lot of perforations all throughout. You have some of the pit pads here and the shoulder caps. So it's a great piece. The other thing is, even though this is more of a lower price point, we still felt so strongly about the original DeltaFlex harness that we incorporated here. We tried doing, again, I don't say like dumbed it down, but we tried doing some simpler designs. We just didn't like it because, again, this really helps keep the chest protector located on the body as you really need it to. And when you pop it on, you have, it's just a great form-fitting design. The break points are designed to wrap around, give you great protection and not get in your way. It's not too stiff. The hookups are on the side, just like the Cobalt. It's a little bit harder to attach in the Cobalt, but again, just a really nice form-fitting design. One thing that I like to tout is the plastic, again, that we use in these chest protectors has a bit of memory to it. So when you get your internal plate chest protector, it's going to be pretty flat because it's going to ship flat most likely. But if you take the time to round and mold the shoulder cap, let me take the shoulder cap off so you can see it more clearly. This plastic plate that's up in the shoulder collarbone area will start to retain memory and start to stay curved. And this is something we've done for years for catchers. And it's just a great thing because once again, you're getting the chest protector to curve and hang on the body. You're less reliant on the harness system to keep it in place because the chest protector itself is hanging on the body. So that's just a great fit story. It's better protection because it's really covering the parts of the body that need to be protected and covered. And what we tell catchers to do, and this is no different for umpires, is to basically in your bag, roll it up like a burrito, like this, and you can even stick it in your leg guards. And what that will do is over time, it'll help maintain that curve in the collarbone area. So just, again, helping keep that fit, nice and custom. So it's just super comfortable. So that's the internal chest protector, the internal plate chest protector.
Stan, again, it's such a great looking product. I love the sheen of that. Just has a nice satin look to it. I love how that hugs the body. I know our staff have taken pictures in that and tried that on, and we've sort of through our development, we're working with you guys. We also love that too. Definitely don't forget, this is also a great fast pitch umpire chest protector. A lot of the fast pitch umpires don't like the extra protection, don't need the hard shell. Softball isn't going to give, it's going to be spread out a little bit more. The velocities are not as much. And so with what and they also don't want a lot of bulk. And so this with the moisture management system that you have built into this very well could be the next great fast pitch umpire chest protector.
One thing I'm always forgetful about, Jim, because we've done it for so long, is we have built an antimicrobial into our foams and fabrics. And so especially on a piece of equipment that's up against your body in the blazing sun, humidity, you're sweating like crazy into this. it helps reduce the funk and the odor. And, you know, you can throw this in your bag. If you forget to take it out and air it out or forget to wash it, it doesn't get all mildewy or funky. It really helps reduce the odor, which is just a great value. And this thing can be machine washed. You know, we have lots of people that will take this into a home washing machine, put on a gentle cycle, just a little bit of detergent, wash it, you know, throw some towels in there. I recommend taking the harness off. Anything with Velcro, take the Velcro off, because that could cause piddling, you know, such as, you know, the shoulder cap attachments. But then you just line dry it and it's like brand new. It's really fantastic. So this is like a good value buy, but it's something that's going to last, you know, for multiple years. So just a great piece. So, and that's one thing that, if anything, we're guilty of at All Stars. We tend to overbuild things, you know, so that they last maybe too long, you know, but we want people to basically be happy with the product. And that's really been a winning strategy for decades. Is like, you know, even during the recession of, you know, 2008 and whatnot, we never had a down year. And I just think it's word of mouth. You know, people just love our product, tell other people about it. It's just a very, very steady way to run a business. Just focusing on the product, just focus on the product. We're not relying on, you know, any kind of buzzwords or, you know, advertisements. It's just really just trying to build a good product that people are happy with. And then hopefully they tell their friends, and it keeps going from there. So cool.
Hey, Stan, somebody asked, how thick are the pads inside of that one?
Yeah.
The plastic plates, that is. Sorry.
Figure the plastic plates.
Yeah, the plastic plates are the plastic plates are 4 millimeters. And again, they're high density polyethylene. So it's not so much just the thickness, it's what is the actual material. And because we don't want things to buckle or, you know, pivot inward. One thing I was just checking, because, you know, I'm a nerd and I've got calipers at my disposal, is I think the air management pads are 3/4 of an inch, and which is a pretty important spec. Oops. And yep, 0.75 on the money. So yeah, so again, and the total thickness, I don't think we ever really talked about that. But if I take the calipers, you know, this is kind of a plus minus thing. I mean, it's roughly basically an inch from the exterior shell to the innermost part of the padding. You know, if just kind of grabbing it, you know, right here in the meat. So again, very low profile. Just phenomenal, fantastic.
When I got the Cobalt chest protector, the hard shell, I was obviously floored. But when you sent me the CPU26, I had never thought that I would be impressed by a pad with a chest protector without a hard shell on the outside. This thing is extremely impressive. For a price, for, like Jim was saying, for softball, for a new umpire who's going to be doing some, you know, lower level, the thing that really makes it stand out is just how adjustable it is compared to other price points. So, like, if this is one side of the chest protector with the shoulder guard, there's another. So you have that much, it's like maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of adjustability. Same amount of adjustment down here on the pit pads, and not just in and out, but up and down. So you can really stick these things wherever you want. I'm very impressed by this. As impressive as the Cobalt is, for a beginner's chest protector, for a you know, price point. I think, Jim, you're going to be pricing for $100, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're you know, it's phenomenal. And I think you were saying earlier when we were discussing it, it kind of is an outcropping from the work you were doing on the catcher's chest protectors with the new standards, right?
Yeah, 100%. So like basically, you know, doing the development for the Noxie chest protectors, this is a direct takeaway. This silhouette, this is what we're using on our baseball chest protectors that meet the Noxie standard. It's the same 4 millimeter thick HDPE plate inside. So yes, thanks, Tommy. So yeah, it's in the fit, like it's for, I don't say for how simple it is, you know, because compared to the Cobalt, this is pretty simple, but it just fits so great. Like it just wraps the body. Like you just got to try it to believe it. So it's fantastic. Tommy, do we have a couple minutes to talk about?
You got all the time you got all the time you want. I just wanted to get us moving along because we still got a couple more products to cover, and we're about 1 hour and 20 minutes in. So I just want to make sure you got time, because these this next product is really, really great too, as well as all of them have been. But this is great, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my video.
This is like one of those reality shows that you know, you liked your hour watching it, and then you're like, oh, I want more. I want it to keep going, and I'm sure people are really into it, because this is so, you know, this is so unusual. This is that you as a manufacturer, not only, you know, not only did you come out with one chest protector, you came out with two, and I think you listened very well to the fact that not everyone wants the same thing. You know, and baseball umpires are different than softball umpires. But not only you doing the work and you're putting the work in, and the community definitely appreciates the efforts that you have done, and your team. I know it's not all you, right? You didn't make those, hand make all that, right? Right. I know knowing you may have done some of them, but no, we appreciate you having us on and in your lab and showing us the ins and outs directly right from the manufacturer. So
we've never done anything like this before, Jim. So thank you guys. And it's, you know, we're pretty quiet. You know, we don't. I mean, sure, we have Instagram and Twitter and things like that, but like we don't really open up like this. And so hopefully people are getting a kick out of just seeing the lab. And I think someone even suggested in the comments that, you know, maybe we could have like another episode where we just do, you know, testing with air cannon on face masks, which I think would be really fun.
I actually want to talk to you about that, because I would love to do a couple shows with you on some of the air cannon testing and stuff like that.
We've got to do just an air, we'll call it like the air cannon show. I mean, and that alone, and we could shoot the air cannons at like all kinds of things. I mean,
watermelons.
You know, we can have people suggest things, but you know, I've got to give Matt a lot of kudos too. Matt's the one that spearheaded this call, right? And so he reached out to me. I know you and him talk on a regular basis, and I thought it was a great idea. And of course, as soon as we got Tommy involved, it's not so easy to produce these shows, especially when you're also on and talking. And so Tommy makes sure everything works on the back end, and we really appreciate him doing that. But Matt, you know, Matt was the one that gave the idea. And I tell you what, you and I, we've had several different calls on this. There's been the development part, but there's been the development of this call, right? And so I recall maybe even 5-6 weeks ago where Matt, yourself and myself just had a call to talk, just brainstorm potential things on this call of what it might look like. And we got really excited. I mean, you know, you could tell we were all really excited about it. And then we had a pre-call last week and ran through everything with Tommy. And I know we've all been excited this week. And so again, thanks to all you guys, not only you, Stan, but also Matt, for your leadership and spearheading this, and Tommy in being able to make sure that people were actually able to see this.
Great team effort, guys. Yes.
Thank you, Jim, for putting Umpire behind this whole thing.
Love it. So Stan, you want to finish up? You got a couple more products you want to go with, and we'll turn off and let you get back on the main stage. And
sure, we'll just wrap up with one last.
Back in the wings.
We kind of started, you know, with the head, you know, face mask, you know, the skull cap, 2 chest protectors. Now, let's finish off with the leg guard. And so this is our Cobalt leg guard, and you know, in terms of the design, I'm going to be honest. I think this is a not as quite of a product as our past System 7 leg guards. But again, we're listening, you know, what's the need? And I think our old System 7 leg guards were overbuilt. There was just way too much padding. They were too bulky, maybe a bit too hot, just too much. And so the focus of this leg guard was, again, very, very sleek, low profile. We want this to look like you're wearing nothing under your pants. We want to be extremely lightweight and very, very breathable. And that's what this is. So in some ways, I feel like it's a you know, kind of a stripped down version of our older leg guards, but we're really trying to meet the needs of what the officials need. So again, this plastic is just like the other plastic I was telling you, where, you know, out of the box, it's got a unique shape, but if you need it a little bit tighter or a little bit broader, you can flex it, and it has a bit of memory to it. So here I'm just kind of rolling it up, and you can see it's a little bit more curved. It's hard to show on the camera exactly. So again, you can get a more of a custom fit with these leg guards without taking out a heat gun or anything like that. This plastic is super low profile. I mean, you'd have to have a tube, you know, a cylinder basically be any more low profile than this. So, you know, we don't want anything kind of showing out through the pants. We're covering up the gaps here. We got knee protection, big perforations throughout for breathability. We went with just the simple straps, just keep the lightweight, you know, keep it lightweight. And right now, basically each leg is weighing in at basically a pound. So a pound on each leg. It's like I said earlier, I want things to feel like you're wearing a t-shirt, almost like you're wearing nothing. So once you strap these on your legs, like a pound is really nothing. They're just super, low profile, form fitting, lightweight. They're almost invisible. So that kind of rounds out the product offering.
I'm always so eager to jump in and fill in some gaps on things. And can you show the back end? Well, I've got one here, but they'll let you turn it around and show just how much curvature that there is in that, right? And so,
totally.
As umpires, we talk about low profile a lot in the chest protector, right? So we want, just like the picture we showed earlier, Ty, from the side view, it almost didn't look like it was wearing anything at all. But also what we don't want as umpires is to have something that's so bulky that it makes your legs look, terribly bulky as well. And so this is a low profile shin guard. And one of the things I know that you took away from our meeting that we had, when was it that we first met on this? When did you come down last year?
Well, I think we were talking prior to this, but we came down in August of 2019. So a little like
August, pretty
much a year ago.
It's been a year. Hey, I think it was a year today. Happy anniversary.
There you go.
Happy anniversary, Stan, of the visit to umpatire.com and the headquarters. We appreciate you bringing your team down. But one thing that we talked about was that just less is more. Umpires they don't want a lot of bulk. And that's all over. And then also in the shin guards, right? So I know someone like you want to build and add and next thing you know, it could end up being a machine type piece that goes on there. But you listen and go, how can we design something that is less, but still provides that more, still provides that protection and gives you what you need all in one. So some people might look at this as shin guard and go, well, there's just not much to it. But I think that's the beauty of the design of it. There is not much to it, but of what is there, you've got the great management padding, you've got the moldable plastic, and then that also is great memory there, and it's low profile. It's everything you need in a shin guard, or everything you don't need in a shin guard. It's all in that. And so, Matt, I see you're wanting to chime in too on your feelings on the shin guard.
Yeah, just A/B comparing them to what I wear now. I see all the same protections. I don't see any gaps, and maybe half the weight. And guys who maybe fly into games, that weight, what's going in the check baggage is, that's important. Any way that you can shave down weight on the field is going to be good. They're so light. I wish I had gotten a chance to wear them on the field, but pandemics had a way of getting in the way of that. But very excited to be putting all of these things into use on the field and seeing how it can really change the way that I umpire. Going to a lot slimmer profile, a lot less weight, all those things, it's going to help me get up to third base when I'm rotating. It's going to help me get that to maybe another step on a fly ball that helps me see something that I want to see. So, I really appreciate all the work that you put into cutting weight in the places where you can, cutting profile in the places where you can, but never sacrificing that protection.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Cobalt line, Stan, and Matt. It's the updated umpire gear line since the System 7 came out, and I know that you made improvements in the marketplace with those innovations at that time. But then you also learned some things, right? So sometimes there's only so much learning you can do in a lab and talking with your retailers and customers. And sometimes especially when you try something new, it's hard to know exactly what it's going to be like when you get it in on the field. And that's why I like all the testing that Matt was responsible for. I know you and I spent a lot of time talking about the line, especially the chest protector. I can't really take any credit for the skull cap. That was all you guys in Major League Baseball there. But Matt did a great job of getting this on umpires at all levels. And that really allowed them to give feedback. And I know when you're in development on something, there's always this process, right? So you get your things on paper, you get your things in design, you get your things in CAD, and then you make a prototype. Okay. And so you were able to get the prototype with Matt and his umpires. Matt, how many umpires did you test this with? Are you muted?
Carry the one. No, he's thinking.
Yeah,
so
you can't hear him. He's over there tapping his foot on the ground.
That was your thinking noise.
That was my thinking noise. I had to count past 4, so I had to take the socks off.
So you had 4, but there was extensive testing. It wasn't just you gave it to him one time and they used it one game and then they said that you liked it, right?
We did a little bit of both. I handed it around to people that I trust here that I work with, got their just basic ideas, and Stan was very generous and had some samples sent out to a few people. I think all in all, we had about 7 or 8 guys trying it out at different levels, and guys, I should say, men and women, took a look at it. And a lot of things, there's several major things that changed. The placement of the buckle was one thing, and I got to give Stan a lot of credit for that. He heard the feedback that we gave and was able to communicate with the factory and make the changes before they were produced. The prototypes that you sent me had a completely different padding system. And the original padding system was like, yeah, I like it. It's a good padding system. You sent me the air bladder and I was like, no, this is it. Right. This is it. So it was fantastic. You're very, very responsive to those things. And, there are things that, in version 2.0, that we may, continue to evolve the Cobalt.
Yeah, I think that was great too, Stan. The fact that you were so receptive and wanting to make changes throughout the process. I recall you sent me some pictures back in the early part of the year with just before anything got to any factory, and you allowed us to give you that feedback. And I'm like you, I realize I don't know everything, and so because of that, I tend to know more because I'll ask and try to get the more knowledge. And I've got staff with about 45 years of officiating and umpire experience and at all different levels, and we're very thankful that you allowed us to provide that input, and that you did change on the fly when you brought a prototype, when we saw the prototype and a few months ago, and then you took the additional suggestions not only from myself but from Matt, and then you made the changes. And like Matt said, the biggest change was the padding in the back. The prototype did not have that, and there was nothing bad about that prototype at all. And with the padding, it wasn't. But I'm like you, Matt, when you shared with me, we had a Zoom call, and then your rep was also down, so we were doing that Zoom call with the staff and yourself, and we had the two there, and you said, well, I want to know what you think. It's probably going to be more expensive to go to this air management system. And we were like, we don't care. I mean, you've got to go with this. I mean, this just had, like Matt saying, look at it, you just had to. And so we're really glad you made that change, and also the changes with the channel and the buckles and moving those buckles, and also one thing we didn't mention is where the buckles are. And where the loop for the buckles are is, as long as you have your harness on, it's going to help that wrap in that area, and so I really encourage the people to use that loop for that. So, but that's the process through, one goes through this prototype, and then there's another, like Matt said, version 2, and then that you then you take it. And I think what your next step was, you went through production, you started making these, and you pulled the first 2 off the line after all the changes and had them air shipped in. You had one, you sent me one, and I was very excited when that came in, when you told me this just came off the line and you should have this within a couple of days. And I was very excited, and we were excited, and you nailed it. And so really great job. Tell us a little bit where the name Cobalt came from. Why the name Cobalt?
So we have to give credit to Jim. We always give credit where credit is due. we're thinking about not just the product itself, but the branding. Because one thing that we suffer here at All Star is we are a bunch of geeky engineers, product guys. We work on this widget, and then when it's done, oh, let's work on this new widget, and we never continue telling the story like we're doing tonight. Like we never really tell like what went into the product, why it's so great. We kind of just put the product out there and just let it speak for itself. And so trying to maybe grow in some maturity here, like we're trying to think more about the branding. And so we're like, this is not just a chest protector. It's a helmet that's going to pair with a magnesium mask. It's a whole new chest protector, a whole new leg. It's a whole line. It needs to be something more than just a model number. We need a name for it. And so we're pitching around some names, and we're also thinking, could we do a color pop? Like maybe like some sort of blue color. And so, and again, another back and forth with you, Jim, just like the product, talking about the nitty-gritty details of the product, we're kind of spitballing ideas about branding and naming. And you said, yeah, blue. How about cobalt? Cobalt's a cool blue name color, like cobalt. And boom, we're like, that's it, cobalt, done. So thank you, Jim. It was
okay, so it was that easy, because the way that you made it to me, that you were going to have to present it to your team and talk to your marketing people, and then you're going to get back to me with the idea, and so it was even quicker that, huh? Okay.
I was sold initially, but yes, I did run it by Ross,
right.
who's our graphic designer, my brother.
What I like about cobalt, when you do research on what cobalt is, it's actually a metal that's that's indestructible, right?
Yeah.
It's a material, mineral, it's all kinds of things, right? That's indestructible. And I know you all were really wanting very hard. I wouldn't have thought of that had not you all said, we want to attach it to something blue, because the blue, blue is a traditional name. Not everyone likes to be called blue. We understand that. But, blue is a traditional umpire color. And so we didn't want to call it necessarily Blue Zone or something that was kind of generic. And when you told me that you wanted a color to pop on, let's say, the chest protector, and the more I got to thinking about that, the more I thought, we've got to find a blue color that also has a connotation that there is a defensive defender, shieldy, something that does that. And I just kind of did some Googling, looking around and thinking, and when cobalt hit me, I think I emailed you at like 1 a.m. in the morning, and you got that point, like saying, you've got to do cobalt. And so when you said, well, I'll take it to my team, and I thought, they're not going to do it. They're going to go, and they're not going to do it. No one at All Star is going to listen to me and actually, use that name. And so I was pretty excited. I went around bragging to people know me, I don't brag a lot. I went around bragging to everybody that I could find that All Star is going to name the cobalt. That was my idea. So yeah, I had to ask that question. I appreciate you answering it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything's a process, and maybe one thing to sum this whole conversation up is that it's feedback, right? Like that's kind of the roots of our company. It's what we still do today. It could be the product, could be the branding. It's all about getting that feedback and just trying to get it all, swirl it together, and then hopefully something magical happens. So I don't know. I can't thank Matt, Jim, you guys enough for all the product feedback. Tommy, thank you for getting this amazing, technological show on the road here. And so
there's one more thing I want to do while we're here, and that is, if you have a minute tonight after we're done, go out to your browser and go to www.umpattire.com/cobalt. And what it'll do is take you to a web page that has all the products we spoke about tonight, and give you a chance to kind of take a look at some of them more in depth. There's 2 products we didn't cover tonight. I will have you, Stan, talk real quick about the cryo helmet, because that's not an in-game use piece of equipment, but I really think that every locker room in the country should have one of these available. And after Stan tells you why, you'll understand.
Well, thanks, Tommy. And actually, that's a perfect segue, because starting two years ago, thanks, Matt. Look, we got a demo here. Is starting first, the cryo helmet. What is it? It's cold packs for your head and neck. And there's a body of research that showed that if you cool the skull, and particularly the carotid arteries, you can reduce the brain's temperature by just a few degrees, just a small amount. But by reducing the brain's temperature a small amount, some really wonderful things happen, particularly after you have a TBI, such as a concussion. one thing that you hear about in the medical literature is the metabolic mismatch. You get an impact to your head, your brain cells for some reason get the signal to speed up, and they speed up, they go crazy, but you're not increasing your blood flow. So I'm a mechanical engineer, not a biologist or a biochemist, but the way I describe it is that they're getting the signal to speed up. They're not getting the support they need to have that increased activity. So your brain cells basically die. They burn out. That's bad, obviously. And it's a whole cascade effect, a whole domino effect, something called inflammatory cascade. Your blood-brain barrier opens up when you have a TBI as well. The interesting thing is that when you apply a little bit of cooling, those things get reversed. Your blood-brain barrier kind of tightens back up. The metabolic mismatch gets more stabilized. About a year ago, we had a study published out of New Zealand that looked at using the cryo helmet following a concussive event for college age males and females, I think it was largely a lot of rugby players. And they found that symptom resolution was huge. Basically your headaches, your just general grogginess, your insomnia, those things all improved by wearing the cryo helmet. So that was the first independent research that showed that. We had already been hearing that for about 6 years from doctors such as doctors, athletic trainers, physical therapists. So I mentioned Dr. Robert Cantu down the street. His team of physical therapists use the cryo helmet in their facilities for basically managing the recovery process following concussion. But also, concussions aside, because this could be a whole other episode that we could do sometime about concussions.
It probably needs to be.
Yeah.
It really needs to be. And I think we've already got 2 episodes, right? Episode 2 is the Canon, Air Cannon show. We're going to shoot it at all kinds of things. And then the next one is going to be post-recovery. And I think it's also equally important. We spend a lot of time talking about prevention of head injuries, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about how we can mitigate them. And to me, it's just as important because it's something that you can control and something you could do. One thing you didn't mention is that the cryo helmet is in all minor league baseball stadiums and all major league baseball stadiums in the umpire locker room. So something happens that requires.
So Tommy kind of hit on it a little bit. Is that, it's basically 2 years ago, every minor league locker room or officials locker room has to have a freezer for the cryo helmet.
Right.
It's fantastic. Again, I could go for another couple hours talking about the cryo helmet. It's just amazing.
I'll just jump in with one thing. A few of the minor league umpires that I talk with and work with, many of them have credited the cryo helmet with saving their career. One of the things that I get to do up here is occasionally we'll fill in at the local AAA stadium. And one of the reasons I have to fill in a lot is because of concussions. And whenever that's the reason I'm there, they're talking about it. They're talking about, well, I had to do my cryo helmet time and they do really push it and, make them use it. And when it first came out, it was kind of like, oh, cool, we can put our beers in here. But very quickly, once people started using it, they love it. I love it. It goes with me every time I work a game. It's in my trunk. I did a test with it when it first came out, where I was going to introduce it to a group of umpires. I took it out of my freezer on a Saturday, drove 2 hours, went to the hotel, left it in the cooler overnight, presented it at 11 o'clock the next morning, still cold.
Yeah, and again, not to get all geeky, but see this like lit up thing here, that's our heated head form that gets up to it's not 98.6, it's like 99 and change. But basically that's where we test the cold packs, just to make sure we get this long duration of cooling like when you wear it, it lasts for at least an hour, typically an hour and a half, which is phenomenal. And even just, aside from concussions, just heat management, heat stroke. And it's getting so hot and you're out under the blaring sun, even like between games, if you just throw it on, one thing is, up here in New England, the old adage in the winter is if your feet are cold, put on a hat because you have so much, heat loss through your head. Mm-hmm. Well, it's similar in that if you're really hot and you put something cold on your head and your neck, you're helping kind of pull more heat out of your body as well. So just in terms of heat management, it's a great tool. Quickly between innings, you can use the scarf, just kind of throw it on real quick. Then it comes in a cooler bag, so it can be behind you on a fence and stay frozen just as it stayed frozen for you, Matt, in the cooler bag as well.
Well, I want to sum up what this is, what the cryo helmet is. When people hear cryo helmet, it sounds like some apparatus that came out of some doctor's lab, right? It's And I know you've got a lot engineered in it, but to me, it is an apparatus that puts ice on your brain. Puts ice on your brain on a bruise, right? So you're gonna, if you, I see lots of people this year getting wrist injuries, leg injuries. I see lots of bruises, and people say, "Hey, make sure you ice that. Make sure you ice that." Well, a concussion is a bruise on your brain. When you get a concussion, it means something swollen up, something, some blood vessels busted, and you've got some blood in there. And just like you would ice, why would you want to ice your arm or ice your leg and not ice your brain when you get a concussion? You don't have to be that tough. It's the most important part of your body. And so it's a way to ice your brain when it gets a bruise. That's what it is. And I know it's expensive. It's not $10. It's not $20, but it fits. It's perfectly made. It's got all the right materials in it. Plus it's got that extra thing to where the blood will pass through or pass by the cooling areas that go into your brain, which will cool your brain internally. And again, I've said it lots of times. You got the skull cap, $60 that can save you a game. Get your money back. If you can get to work the next day because you didn't get a concussion, there's money there back in your pocket. And then same thing with the cryo helmet. Have it on hand. It's $80. Make the investment in yourself. Surely you love yourself. I know we get enough grief, or umpires get enough grief from fans and parents and things like that. Okay, so love yourself, right? If you're not gonna get love from everyone else, love yourself and have these things on hand and make that investment and ice your brain. That's the cryo helmet. And the cryo scarf too. So, hey, Tommy, can I go to the site really quick and just share a couple little insights? Let me drive.
Do that, and then we'll wrap up for the evening, because here in about 8 minutes, Stan's going to get kicked out.
That's true. Our security guys come through and say, "Why are you still in the lab tonight?"
Well, like everything is live now. We were really careful not getting anything on the site until today. We got our the Cobalt skull caps came in on Monday. And we have got all the sizes except the extra large. And Stan, thank you so much for sending me what you did have. So we do have skull caps available for sale. They're available for right now in all sizes extra large. If you bought one tonight, you would get them out. They would go out tomorrow. So we've also got the Cobalts. Chest protectors are coming. We have only 72 pieces. That's all we have. They're going to sell out. Okay. And so these are coming. We're expecting them in mid-September. And here's the thing that we haven't talked about that people are going to be really excited about. One of the things that you also allowed me, not only did you allow me to help you design the chest protector, you also and then help you come up with the name Cobalt. We also spent a lot of time talking about the price, right? And I appreciate your staff of listening and hearing me out of why I felt the $179.99 price point was better than the $200 price point. And as you mentioned, this is now a MAP item. That's still happening, right? Yeah. So we're not allowed to sell this for less, and that's fine by us. We think it's more than worth the $180 price. So this is available for pre-order. These are coming mid-September. Okay, the only 72 that are being made right now are coming to us, and then they're coming to us via air freight. Stan is basically showing his thanks for all the efforts we put in and allowing us to have these first, and we love it. And we really thank you, Stan, for that. And so these are coming in. We're going to have them in just a couple of weeks. So if you buy one of these 72 Cobalt chest protectors that's going to fit you for whatever level of protection that you want, you will have that around mid-September. So we're only talking 2-3, well, let's just say 3 weeks away, right? I know we talked before with all the things going on in COVID, we don't know when the next batch is coming. That could be October, it could be November, and it could be later. But as you said, these are all been made. The 72 have been made, and you said they're going to be coming from overseas tomorrow. Yep. So they're shipping out tomorrow. You're hoping to get them in soon, and then to us soon. I think here you're going to be putting the harnesses on in the States, so that's going to take another week, I think, after you get those, as you mentioned. And so we're just so excited to be getting these. We're so excited to offer these at the $180 price point. And again, there's only 72. We don't expect these to last very long. And so you can be the first to get these if you grab one today. And then also available, of course, we've got mag masks. We've got the cryo helmet. We've got the cryo scarf that you've mentioned. I've mentioned the skull caps, all but the extra large. We do not have any shin guards in stock yet. We're not allowing those for pre-order because they're coming very soon. Very soon. As you mentioned, we should expect those also in about a week to 2 weeks. And so we're just going to decide to wait on those. The internal shell protectors that we also talked about being so good for the lower levels, and then the fast pitch softball umpires, they're priced at the same $99.99. That's the best price you'll be able to get, considering that it's matte. And so those are also available for pre-order. And so those are also coming very soon. So we're excited about being able to get these products in-house, and then also being able to get them out to our customers. A lot of people do fall baseball. A lot of summer baseball is still going on, right? And so September is that month where there's summer and there's fall. And we're just so excited that you're allowing us to have these products first. And we're so excited about our customers. We love our customers, and a lot of our customers are going to love being able to get these first and bring that to you. And we thank you so much for just being so thorough with your time tonight and your knowledge. And Matt, I tell you what, I'm just really excited. It's been a great night. Been so much looking forward to this. I know you all were too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for this opportunity. And again, it doesn't end here, because again, it's all about feedback. And so we want to hear from people too. When they get these out onto the field, they start getting it shaped to their bodies and wearing all different pieces. Let us know, let us know what works. Let us know what's not working, because we're always tinkering. We're always trying to see, tweak something to make it better. So it's all reliant upon the feedback. So again, thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I want to remind you all the products that Stan covered tonight. We covered the All-Star Mag Mask. We covered the All-Star Cobalt Umpire Skull Cap, the Cobalt Umpire Chest Protector, which is available right now exclusively only at ump-attire.com, the first 72 for pre-order, the All-Star Internal Umpire Chest Protector, the All-Star Cobalt Umpire Shin Guards, and the Cryo Helmet and Cryo Scarf. So we look forward to having you guys back again. Hopefully we'll talk to Stan and twist his arm a little bit and get him to show us some of his toys online. And if you can ever need any help, feel free to reach out to ump-attire.com and or Matt, and we'll see what we can do for you all. So gentlemen, if you have anything else to say, feel free to say goodnight to everybody, and we'll end the cast.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Safe.